all around the world who are connected, who want to do things to help and support Ireland. At the same time, all our universities, they are all developing networks around the world for their own reasons. So there's lots of private stuff and some really big government stuff.
Yes, great. You said that you have a ministry of diaspora. Ministry. The name is Ministry of Diaspora, isn't it?
Ministry.
Yeah.
Ministry. Yeah.
Diaspora.
Yeah.
So what is the specific policy that you have that you already mentioned in the presentation? Like you have a museum, you have
Yes.
something that
Yes.
celebrate or something like
Yes.
that. So can you name some specific policy?
Well, there is a diaspora museum in Ireland which tells a story in a very high-tech way of the Irish who left Ireland and went all around the world, and their influence in the world, and their role in politics, and the role in business, and role in military. So that's a really interesting destination in Ireland. So so we have our ministry, we have our museum, we have the tourist initiatives, we have education initiatives where we encourage overseas people to come and study in Ireland, because that's what we call an affinity diaspora. So people who come and study in Ireland, then they go back, but they're very fond of Ireland, so they're an important part. So we don't believe there is one Irish diaspora. We believe there's hundreds, and they're different. Also, we believe that diaspora is not really all about Ireland, it's about a place in Ireland. It can be a county, it can be a city, it can be a village. People are very loyal to where they were born and brought up and have no interest in other parts of the country. So we want to be flexible in the way we run our diaspora. And we look to other countries and see what they're doing. I talked this morning a little bit about India. And I think India has some interesting lessons for Vietnam, because in the year 2002, India had no relationship with this diaspora, or a very negative relationship with this diaspora. But in that year, they started a high-level commission, an inquiry, a 2-year inquiry, to write a study about the Indian diaspora around the world. There's 27 million in the Indian diaspora. They're the most successful ethnic diaspora in the United States, are Indians. They now are running major companies like Microsoft, like Google, like Pepsi. You have Indians in the CEO position. And they're connecting back to India like never before. So this report, called the High-Level Commission of the Indian Diaspora, was published in 2002 and made some recommendations. The diaspora said to the Indian government, we think you're very bureaucratic, there's a lot of corruption, you need to change things. And the Indian government decided to bring some changes. And this is what they did. They set up a ministry, MOIA, the Ministry of Overseas Indian Affairs. They set up an office, the OIFC, the Overseas Indian Investment Facilitation Center, to encourage Indians overseas to buy shares, buy property back in India. They introduced a new passport called the Overseas Citizen of India, OCI. They started a conference every January where 3,000 Indian CEOs from around the world come back to India. They introduced a rewards and recognition program where they honored the most successful Indians in the diaspora. And in this process, they actually managed to change their nation brand. They managed to change, through their diaspora, what people think about India globally, which was a really interesting thing to do. It took them about 15 years, which is quite short, because India used to have a negative image. And now it's really very positive in many ways. People are interested in India for its food, its culture, its music, its films, its sport. And there's now, a real sense of global Indianness. The Indians are very proud. And the Prime Minister now, Modi, one of the first things he did when he became Prime Minister 3 years ago was to go and visit the Indian diaspora. And he went to Australia, to the Melbourne Cricket Ground, he went to Madison Square Garden in New York, he went to Wembley Stadium in London, and tens of thousands of Indians came to meet him. So he made them feel part of something much bigger than just the little or the country of India. Interesting thought when you think about maybe there's a Vietnamese empire out there, not built by military might or force of arms, but just for the fact there's 5.2 million Vietnamese people living all around the world. So these should be seen by Vietnam as an asset to the country, not as a loss. And the fact that they don't come back to live in Vietnam is not a negative, because it means you have a very influential, well-educated, successful diaspora who have an interest in supporting Vietnam. That's a great resource for your country.
Yeah. What else do you recommend for us, for Vietnamese government?
Well, I think you have to decide on a policy. You have to put resources behind it. You need to invest money in this. You need to, I call it, this is a terrible word, diasporize. In other words, you need to educate people and train people in your Ministry of Foreign Affairs and throughout government how important diaspora is. You need to have the media on side who tell stories. You need to tell the stories of the successful Vietnamese diaspora around the world. And you need to also be able to answer this question: who are they, where are they, what are they doing? So that's a research issue. So you need to find these people, and you need to be able to build these networks, and very often these networks might be networks of accountants, of lawyers, of doctors, of people in retail or insurance or aircraft leasing. And when you get these people together and connect them with people back in Vietnam in those industries, you know, there's a lot of self-interest happening and things happen and objective. We heard today about a Vietnamese woman who's a lawyer in Paris, but she goes back every year and she teaches back. I mean, what a fantastic thing she does. And she's not doing it for the money. I mean, she's doing it because she's passionate about helping. Now, if you can get lots of people doing that, that will be hugely impactful in Vietnam.
So I think that through what you have shared, the most important thing is to make the pride, to create the pride of being the diaspora of some country.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing.
Yeah. And we're seeing it.
How do the Irish government promote?
Well, you know, I think governments can only do so much. Governments can't force you to be proud of your country. I mean, it's in here, your pride in your country. And individuals all have to do their piece and do their bit, like our friend, the lawyer who goes back. I mean, I wouldn't say this is 100% the job of government to do all of this. Governments are in a position to be, as I said, facilitators, to be funders, to support financially initiatives. But you also want people to be motivated themselves to do things, to belong to networks, to go back and visit. In many cases, to send money back. I mean, remittances is about a $12 billion a year input to Vietnam.
Can I ask you a specific question about how much money does the island government invest in diaspora effort?
Yeah, they have the Irish government have a budget to support annually, which is $15 million, which they spend to support Irish organizations around the world. It's not a big number, it's not a huge number, but it's, and organizations can apply and they can get a grant and get support. So, you know, it's a statement by the government which says we care about you and we know some of you need help. And they have this policy. So I think, you know, 15 million is not a gigantic amount of money.
Yeah, it's a great story.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good to talk to you.
Yeah.
And good luck.
Yeah, thank you very much. And